Welcome back to Think and Speak podcast, everyone. I'm Emma Collins, and joining me is the amazing Mr. Daniel Miller. Today we're tackling something crucial, how the way you think may actually block your English progress. Daniel, that sounds serious.
Absolutely, Emma. Many learners spend years studying vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation but still feel stuck when speaking.
Why?
Because mental patterns, how they think about mistakes, learning, and speaking, create invisible barriers.
So, it's not just about studying more.
Exactly. For example, if a learner constantly says, "I'm not good at English," the brain believes it, preventing fluent speech.
Fascinating. So, our listeners can overcome this mental block.
Yes.
Today we'll share modern strategies to change thinking, speak naturally, and turn mistakes into learning opportunities. If you want to improve your English fast, like this video and comment below with your biggest mental block. Let's dive in.
Daniel, many learners study English for years, reading books, memorizing grammar, and practicing vocabulary, but when it comes to speaking, they hesitate or stumble. Why does this happen? Could it be that their mindset is more important than their study? For instance, students may know the difference between "I have done" and "I had done," yet freeze in conversations. Others translate word by word, which slows them down. And many avoid speaking because they fear mistakes or looking stupid. How do mental blocks, self-perception, and habits actually prevent learners from using English fluently, even after years of study? Can you explain why knowing rules isn't enough, and how thinking differently can help learners finally speak with confidence?
Absolutely, Emma. The first point is that fluency relies on mindset, not memorization alone. Students may memorize grammar rules perfectly but hesitate to speak spontaneously. This fear creates a psychological block, stronger than grammar knowledge itself. Second, the habit of thinking in the native language and translating slows speech and causes unnatural sentences. For example, a Spanish speaker may say, "I am studying English since 3 years," instead of the correct, "I have been studying English for 3 years." Modern teaching encourages thinking directly in English, creating automatic structures. Third, negative self-talk reinforces barriers. Thoughts like, "I always make mistakes," condition the brain to anticipate failure. Using positive affirmations, e.g., "I am improving every day," rewires neural pathways for confidence. Contextual grammar practice is also key. Apply rules to your life. I've been learning English online and speaking with friends daily. Phrasal verbs like "come across" should be practiced in real sentences. I came across an interesting article today. Finally, active practice and reframing mistakes matter. Mistakes are feedback, not failure. Saying, "I go to the market," should be corrected mentally, "I went to the market." Repetition strengthens correct patterns. By combining mindset, thinking in English, contextual grammar, and active practice, learners unlock fluency. The brain becomes automatic, and mental blocks disappear.
Daniel, many learners focus too much on grammar perfection instead of speaking naturally. They know rules for past perfect, conditionals, or phrasal verbs, but hesitate in real conversations. Is this overthinking or another mental block? How can learners move from knowing rules to using them fluently? How does their inner dialogue affect confidence? Can you explain practical ways to overcome overthinking and grammatical anxiety, training the brain to apply grammar naturally, without constant doubt? Our listeners need to understand why memorizing grammar alone does not guarantee fluency and what mindset shifts allow them to speak smoothly, even with mistakes.
Emma, this is crucial. Overthinking grammar is a major obstacle. Knowing rules is just the foundation. Fluency depends on automatic application. Self-monitoring anxiety, "Is this correct?" interrupts natural speech. The brain focuses on avoiding mistakes rather than communicating ideas, creating a mental block. Solutions include contextual and automatic practice. Use grammar in personal sentences or storytelling. "I had already eaten breakfast when my friend called." This connects grammar to real meaning. Phrasal verbs work similarly. "I came across an interesting article today." Thinking aloud in English strengthens automatic speech. Narrate your day. "I'm making tea." "I need to check emails." "I have been working on podcast ideas." Grammar is applied without translation. Reframing mistakes is essential. Mistakes are feedback. I go to the store becomes I went to the store, reinforcing correct patterns. Combining positive self-talk, contextual grammar, and active speaking helps learners stop overthinking. Focus on communication, not perfection. Grammar becomes automatic, and fluency grows naturally. Modern fluency is thinking in English, speaking confidently, and using mistakes as learning opportunities. This mindset shift is what transforms knowledge into effortless communication.
Daniel, some learners feel frustrated because despite practicing English, their speaking doesn't improve fast. They repeat phrases, listen to podcasts, or study vocabulary, yet feel stuck. Is this a technique issue, or more about how they think about learning? Many are self-critical or constantly compare themselves to native speakers. How does perfectionism and comparison block progress? What mental exercises, habits, or thinking strategies can help learners accelerate speaking fluency, reduce fear, and feel improvement every day, even with mistakes or imperfection?
Excellent question. Many learners hit a progress plateau due to limiting mental patterns, perfectionism, and comparison. Perfectionism causes hesitation. Comparison discourages learners, making them feel behind. The solution starts with mindset reframing. Progress is not native-level fluency overnight. It's communicating ideas confidently each day and using vocabulary in context. Keeping a daily English journal or recording short narrations helps track progress and reinforces neural pathways. Mental exercises reduce fear of mistakes. Positive self-talk replaces, "I said it wrong," with, "That was my attempt, and I can correct it." Neuroscience shows that repeating correct sentences after mistakes strengthens memory. Contextual vocabulary practice is essential. Instead of memorizing lists, learners use words in sentences. Yesterday, I came across an amazing article about technology. Idioms, phrasal verbs, and collocations become practical tools. Daily speaking habit is crucial. 2 minutes of narration, 5 to 10 minutes of conversation, or speaking aloud while performing tasks reinforces fluency. Over time, thinking in English replaces translation, and neural pathways automate language production. Combining realistic goals, reframing mistakes, contextual practice, and daily speaking breaks mental barriers. Learning English is a mental exercise as much as linguistic. By shifting from perfectionism and comparison to self-guided growth, learners improve fluency, gain confidence, and experience steady progress. Every small success compounds into meaningful improvement.
Daniel, I've noticed that many English learners memorize vocabulary and grammar rules, but struggle to use them in real conversations. For example, they may know the difference between present perfect and past simple, but hesitate to apply them when speaking with friends or colleagues. Some learners also feel anxious about making mistakes, which blocks them from expressing themselves naturally. I want to understand why knowing grammar and vocabulary alone isn't enough. How do learners train their brains to think in English instead of translating from their native language? Are there specific strategies or daily habits that help learners speak confidently while still learning from their mistakes?
That's an excellent question, Emma. The core issue is that memorizing grammar rules and vocabulary doesn't automatically create fluency. Many learners know rules but overthink them during conversations, which slows speech and creates hesitation. The brain is still relying on translation, and every pause to recall a rule interrupts natural communication. One effective approach is thinking directly in English. Instead of translating, learners should narrate daily activities in English. For example, I'm cooking lunch. I need to check my emails. I have been practicing English for 2 hours. By repeatedly forming sentences about familiar situations, the brain builds automatic patterns and reduces translation dependency. Active usage of vocabulary and grammar in context is essential. For instance, instead of memorizing, "I have visited London," create personalized sentences. "I have visited London twice, and I loved the museums there." Similarly, practice phrasal verbs in real sentences. "I came across an interesting article about English learning today." This strengthens memory while teaching practical usage. Another strategy is embracing mistakes as learning opportunities. When a learner says, "I go to the market," the correct form, "I went to the market," should be noted and repeated. Modern neuroscience shows that repetition after mistakes strengthens the correct neural pathways. Over time, this trains the brain to use grammar naturally. Finally, daily speaking habits are critical. Even short sessions, narrating thoughts, talking to a friend, or recording oneself, build confidence and fluency. Positive self-talk like, "Mistakes help me learn," reduces fear and mental blocks. By combining thinking in English, contextual practice, embracing mistakes, and daily speaking routines, learners transition from memorization to natural, confident communication. Fluency is no longer about perfection. It's about automatic thinking and expressing ideas naturally.
Daniel, some learners feel frustrated because even after practicing English for months or years, they don't see progress in speaking. They might know thousands of words, understand grammar rules, and listen to podcasts, but when they try to converse, they pause or repeat sentences. I wonder, is this because of a mental block rather than a lack of study? How does self-criticism or fear of judgment affect speaking progress? What strategies can learners use to build confidence, reduce hesitation, and finally express themselves fluently, even if they make mistakes? I want our audience to understand the role of mindset and how changing mental patterns can accelerate improvement in speaking.
That's a very common challenge, Emma. Learners often experience a confidence plateau. They know the language but cannot express it fluently. The primary cause is usually mental blocks, including fear of mistakes, overthinking, and self-criticism. When learners constantly judge themselves or compare to native speakers, the brain focuses on potential errors instead of forming ideas naturally. One solution is reframing mistakes. Instead of viewing mistakes as failure, learners should treat them as feedback. For example, saying, "I go to the store," is not a failure. The correct form is, "I went to the store." Repeating correct sentences strengthens the brain's memory and gradually makes grammar use automatic. Another key strategy is positive self-talk and mental visualization. Learners can visualize themselves speaking confidently and interacting successfully in English. Phrases like, "I can express myself," or "every day I improve," reduce fear and encourage spontaneous speaking. Daily speaking practice is also crucial. Narrating activities, having short conversations, or recording oneself helps create automatic sentence structures. For example, "I am making coffee." "I have finished my emails." "I'm planning my podcast today." These short exercises train the brain to think in English, bypassing translation. Finally, integrating contextual vocabulary and grammar enhances fluency. Using new words or phrases in real-life sentences, like, "I came across an amazing article," instead of memorizing the phrase alone, helps learners remember and apply them naturally. By combining mistake reframing, positive mindset, contextual practice, and daily speaking, learners overcome mental blocks and build confidence. Fluency becomes a result of habitual thinking in English rather than perfect grammar knowledge. With consistent practice and the right mindset, learners can express ideas freely, communicate naturally, and see real progress in their speaking ability.
Daniel, many learners tell me that even when they understand English grammar and know lots of words, they still struggle with speaking naturally in conversations. They often pause, search for words, or hesitate because they fear making mistakes. I've noticed this especially when learners are trying to speak with native speakers. They worry that their accent, word choice, or grammar errors will make them look less capable. I want to know, Daniel, how much of this problem comes from mental habits rather than lack of knowledge? What strategies can learners use to overcome fear and hesitation, speak more confidently, and stop overthinking during real conversations? How can they train their brain to produce English naturally instead of translating from their native language? Can you give practical exercises or daily routines to improve spontaneous speaking and build fluency, even if mistakes happen along the way?
Excellent question, Emma. This is a very common issue among English learners. The truth is that knowledge alone doesn't guarantee fluency. Mental habits play a much larger role in speaking confidently. Many learners pause because their brain is still translating, trying to construct perfect sentences, or worrying about mistakes. This overthinking creates a mental block, which can be stronger than any grammar challenge. One of the most effective solutions is thinking in English, rather than translating. Learners should try narrating their day in English. "I'm making coffee." "I've already checked my emails." "I'm preparing notes for my podcast." By practicing daily, The brain forms automatic sentence patterns, reducing hesitation. Another important technique is embracing mistakes as a learning tool. For example, if a learner says, "I go to the store," they should note the correct form, "I went to the store," and repeat it in conversation. Modern neuroscience shows that repeated corrections strengthen neural pathways, so the brain starts applying rules automatically. Contextual practice is also key. Instead of memorizing grammar in isolation, learners should use new words or structures in meaningful sentences. Yesterday, I came across a fascinating article about English podcasts. This approach helps learners remember vocabulary and grammar naturally. Finally, learners should create short daily speaking routines. Even 5 minutes of talking to themselves, recording a short story, or speaking to a friend in English helps build confidence. Pair this with positive self-talk, such as, "Every day I improve," or "Mistakes help me learn," and learners gradually reduce fear and overthinking. By combining thinking in English, contextual practice, daily speaking, and positive mindset, learners overcome mental blocks. Over time, the brain begins producing English automatically, fluency improves, and conversations become natural, even with occasional mistakes.
Daniel, I've seen learners who study English for a long time, know advanced vocabulary, and can understand movies or podcasts, but when asked to share their opinions, they freeze or speak very slowly. They often blame themselves or feel insecure about pronunciation, grammar, or vocabulary usage. I wonder, how does the mental pressure of wanting to be perfect affect speaking fluency? Can learners improve by focusing less on perfection and more on communication skills? What exercises or mindset shifts can help learners gain confidence to express ideas naturally, even when they make errors? I want our audience to understand that progress in speaking is not only about grammar knowledge, but also about how they think and approach conversation.
That's a critical point, Emma. Many learners experience what I call a perfectionism trap. They focus on avoiding mistakes rather than sharing ideas, which blocks fluency. The mental pressure of wanting to speak perfectly slows down thought processing, leading to pauses, hesitations, or even silence during conversations. The first step to overcoming this is reframing mistakes. Mistakes are not failures, they are signals that the brain is learning. For instance, if a learner says, "I have went to the store," they should correct it mentally, "I have gone to the store." Repeating correct form strengthens memory, making proper usage automatic over time. Second, learners should prioritize communication over perfection. English is a tool to convey ideas. It's better to express a thought imperfectly than to remain silent. Practicing storytelling, short speeches, or narrating daily events helps learners build confidence. For example, "Today, I met my friend, and we talked about music. I really enjoyed our conversation." Contextual and immersive exercises are also highly effective. Use new words or grammar structures in meaningful sentences instead of memorizing in isolation. For example, using phrasal verbs in context, "I came across an interesting article about productivity today." This strengthens practical usage and reduces anxiety about mistakes. Finally, learners should adopt daily speaking habits and positive self-talk. Even 5 minutes a day, recording their thoughts, narrating routines, or discussing a topic with a partner, combined with affirmations like, "I am improving every day," gradually eliminates fear. By combining mistake reframing, communication focus, contextual usage, and daily speaking, learners gradually release the pressure of perfectionism. The brain starts producing English automatically, ideas flow naturally, and fluency improves. The key takeaway: speaking is about expressing thoughts confidently, not speaking perfectly.